Hello. Hi, I'm Devi. I'm the founder at Hackages. And in this episode of the Developer's Diary, we're going to talk about becoming an amazing software engineer. Well, let's get going. Here's the story. I am a software engineer. I build product. Hackages is actually a platform that I'm building to help software engineers become better at writing code. But I've been doing that already for a few years, and I realized that there are a few patterns that I encounter when I deal with developers that are actually really important to go from, hey, I don't know how to code, to becoming quite at ease coding, and then there is still a huge gap that you need to fill in there to really become good. So I'm not gonna focus on that. If you think 0 to 60, I'm gonna focus on that 0 to 60 and not the 60 to 90, right? So here I have 5 points, and it probably is gonna sound counterintuitive maybe, but let's go with it. Mastering your keyboard, mastering a language, mastering a framework, mastering app building, and then from there, mastering problem solving. Now, let me unpack each of them individually and let's make sense out of it by using real world examples. When people start learning how to code, they're gonna watch tons of tutorials. There are a lot of content online, YouTube video, courses, and so on and so forth. They end up in a tutorial hell, tutorial after tutorials. But here is the thing. None of this tutorial, when you don't really know what is happening, will help you. You're gonna spend a lot of time to get to where you could go. But here, what we're doing in this episode is to give you the keys to actually speed up that process. Where do you start? As I mentioned, the first one is the keyboard, right? So it's actually weird to say that the keyboard is something you want to master. Let me bring you that. I'm a huge fan of keyboards, and it's probably why I'm talking about keyboards. So if you want to see me unpack this, there is a video here where I spend time displaying my passion for keyboards. But here is what I would like to say about keyboards. Keyboards are a tool that you're gonna be using, let's say, not 100% of the time. I will say 200% of the time. Yeah, no, that is a little bit crazy, I know. But the point there is, it is your best friend. You're gonna be navigating the world of software development with that keyboard. So if you're not at ease with your keyboard, you're gonna stay behind, because you will be like, look at the experience. You're gonna be tapping on the keyboard like this to get things going. You're not engaging your full focus on the learning part. It's distracted between what is Q, what is W, and versus here is the problem at hand, and focus on just solving that problem, right? So if you get the keyboard thing out of the way, you will be already at the place where you're like, okay, what's the next thing? Before I go to the next thing, I just want to mention something. In terms of action you can take today is there is a platform called Monkey Type that allows you to practice your keyboard skills on a regular basis. I will say 10 minutes to 20 minutes a day. You just sit there, take a challenge, try the things, and let it flow in your body. So now one of the things you need to understand when I say let it flow in your body is your body, doesn't matter if you're learning how to run or you're preparing for a marathon or whatever you're learning a new skills, it's a matter of telling your body, hey, I'm learning that skills, and here is how it's going to feel when that skills is there. So your body doesn't make a difference between do you have the skills right now or are you building it. It's gonna at some point just realize that, hey, it's there. But you're gonna feel your body going, oh, this is what it means to master a keyboard. Because at some point, you will just be sitting there looking at the problem and not thinking, what is that? What is that key? right? So in short, if you want to, the first one here is master your keyboard. The Monkey keyboard thing, the link is gonna be in description. I have no affiliation with them. It's just a tool I used a few years ago. It was probably something called Typing Foo. I don't know if that thing still exists today, but it was a way to get to a place where you can type easily 80 words per minute, 90 words per minute, and feel really confident when you're in front of a keyboard, because that's not the blocking point. Okay, let's move to the next one. The next one is a language. Okay, if you want to become go from 0 to 60, pick a language. Python, JavaScript. I don't know, you want to go with Go? Doesn't matter, pick a language. The first thing you want to know about that language is how it feels to write that language, right? It goes back to the keyboard thing. You train your body to understand the feeling of writing that code. Action. How do you do that? For example, in December last year, I got to work with the amazing team at Cadena on the Pact integration for the learning platform that we're building at Hackages. Pact is a language, let me put it this way, full of parentheses, and I hated it. When I saw the syntax the first time, I was like, holy no, that's not possible. It's like closure kind of language. But I knew that the technique of telling my body, this is good. If some amazing people wrote it this way, they might have a good reason, right? So I had to overcome the barrier of the syntax. And how did I do that? I took the hello world from documentation of the Cadena website on Pact. They have an hello world that has about 20 lines, right? It covers like modules and so many other things, but it's really packed in 20 lines. And I said, by the end of the hour, I should be able to write that hello world without looking at it. Do you understand what I just said? I picked that code and I was like, I should be able to write it without looking at it. So I tried once, twice, and I was like, oh, what is that capability? Oh, well. And then at some point I went from, I don't need that example anymore. I can write it from scratch. And I tried to then play with it and see, oh, if I change this, how does that behave? If I do that, how does that behave? But I went from, I don't know the syntax of this thing, to mastering how to write function, capabilities, and so on in Pact, and then being able to go ahead and start adding things that I didn't know, like literally an hour before, I didn't know how to do those. But how did I know how to do them? Is by trying the language, just typing it out, right? It's like someone will say it out loud to make it sink in. It's literally the same thing. So I went on, type, scratch, start again, scratch, start again. And by the end of the hour, I had it right there in my vein. It was there. I could feel it. And then for 3 months, I take examples of code in Pact and then write it. How do you interact with the database? How do you, blockchain. How do you do XYZ? How do you deal with enforcing that a property is true or false? Or you put a set of rules and you want to make sure that anyone who's going to be doing applying a certain behavior will pass a set of checks. And from there, you start realizing that it's just a language just like the one we speak right now. Learning a language is really fundamental there. But language by itself would allow you, to actually build apps, but it will take you more time. So that takes me to the next one, frameworks. So what is a framework? A framework is basically, a tool, a set of tools that allow you to leverage a language in a faster way. Because in programming, a framework is built using a language, right? There are some languages that have a level of frameworks, like you can think of Pact that has already ways to deal with databases and stuff like that. It's a language built on top of like the blockchain. So you can think of it already like a framework, a language. But there are frameworks, if you think JavaScript, there are frameworks like Angular, Vue.js that allow you to build web application really fast. Yeah, I'm not kidding. You could go really, really fast with that. But if you were to build the same app with just JavaScript, you might not get the same speed, you might not get the same performances, and so on and so forth, right? So I'm not saying that you can't with JavaScript as a language, but it will take you more time, okay? So here is the main thing about a framework. You want to move fast at solving problems, because the whole thing about learning programming, it's to solve problems. Like, you gotta learn how to solve problems, because if you're just learning it for the beauty of learning it, it might be okay because that's a passion you're developing, but knowing how to program and not solving problem with it is a huge waste. That's my deep belief, right? So framework will allow you to move fast. So the next point that covers app building is actually a point that I want to merge with this one, right? So what is app building? App building is this idea of, like, when you learn how to program, the goal there is to solve problems. But you might go the wrong way if you say, like, hey, I have a problem and I'm gonna learn how to program to solve that problem. That will work, and that will definitely work. That's actually one of the way I learn. But one thing that is important in that whole picture is app building. You don't have to start with the problem right away. You can start with a sample, an example of app. Let's say a to-do app, this one, for example. That app is a to-do app. It's something that if you talk with developers, they're gonna tell you, yeah, to-do apps are everywhere. And yes, they are everywhere, I'm not kidding. So the point here is to say, could you build that app? And now you go back to this idea of, like, what I did with practice. Pick an app on GitHub, see the code, try to write that app by just reading the code that is there. Read it, copy it, read it, copy it. Get to the point where you're able to build that to-do app. Usually a to-do app could be just one file app. Just do it entirely. You're gonna do it with the language that you learn. Then I challenge you to do it with the framework. But do it to the point where you don't have to look at the documentation, you don't have to look at the framework. You just become really confident as, hey, that's a to-do app, I'm gonna build it, and you have it working. From the moment you're at ease with your framework usage, app building, you can now navigate to different ideas of app. Let's say, for example, a to-do app is not that different than a note-taking app, right? Where you basically have an input and you write, oh, this idea, you give it some tag, boom. That's a note that is on your phone. For example, another idea is like a grocery list, right? You basically say, hey, I'm gonna go to the grocery today and here are a list of things that I would like to buy, and so on and so forth. You just build that. The concept underneath are not really different than a to-do app that has this idea of, like, enter the to-do, say that you did it, give even the time that you spend doing it, and so on and so forth, right? The concepts are really close with each other. So when you start building an app using that approach, you can then navigate to this other concept by just tweaking the existing thing that you started with. I'm not kidding, you're gonna grow much faster. But by doing so, you actually develop problem-solving skills. You're growing that one really, really well. So that leads me to the next and last point, which is problem solving. Problems are everywhere, and sometimes they're not obvious, but most of the time they are obvious. So what is problem solving? As a software engineer, as a software developer, you learn by, the world around you is basically your playground. And what I mean by the playground is, you're probably watching this video right now on YouTube, or I don't know on which platform you are. Someone built that because they saw an opportunity. You can think of it as a problem, and then they build the tools to actually cater to that problem, right? What do you want to build? Oh, you want to build web apps or mobile apps, or you want to build that app for your wedding where people can go ahead and book their ticket and so on and so forth, so you can manage guests then in a different way. That there, it is maybe not problem, but it's something that if you do it, you're actually making the process of people receiving their invitation for a wedding easier. Right? That's a problem you can solve with code. Oh, you need a website for your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your wife shop? There you go. You know how to code, you could do that. Although in 2023, you might not need to code it anymore. But knowing how to do it makes it easy to start using tools that are not designed for coding. Problem solving, it's something that you're gonna have to just develop over the years. And by going after apps building, understanding frameworks and what these frameworks are solving as problem, understanding languages and why these languages are there and why they're doing things in a certain way versus other framework. And then from there, you go from 0 to 60. I'm not kidding. If you do that in like 2-3 months period, you become really good at it. I want to note something here. I've seen people going to boot camps in San Francisco at Arc Reactor. They arrive there, they already spend about 2-3 months learning how to code on their own, trying to solve problems. And then they go into this 3 months immersive program, and they come out of it with a job at Google, with a job at OpenTable, and so on and so forth. And how did they do that? Everything I just told you right now will allow you to build good habit. Yes, that's basically the point. Good habit. See, there's nowhere here I mention data structure, algorithm, and all these things. Nowhere. These are important, but they become really easy when language, like the syntax of language is easy. You master your keyboard, so you don't have to fight with other things than focusing on the problem. Frameworks will most of the time encapsulate this concept for you. Is it important? It is important for you to understand that. Yes, it is important, because you're into problem solving. If you understand the problem and the tools to solve this problem, you're just adding more tools in the way you solve problems in the future. All of that leads you to this idea of like becoming really good at problem solving. So this video is here to basically allow you to draw your own path to becoming a pretty good software developer. And hopefully, I gave you quite some good information there. But if you have other ideas, if you approach it in a different way, just let me know. One thing I didn't probably mention there is you can do all of that while being in a boot camp. You can do all of that on your own. But what I do believe is you gotta dedicate like a really focused time on these things if you want to move fast. If you have all the time in the world, yeah, you could do that also over a long period of time. I do believe in the compressed, accelerated time to get to a certain level. That's what I call the 0 to 60. The 60 to 90, if you want to know about it, I'm gonna make a video about it. Just say that in a comment that you want to know how you get from the 60 to 90. I know how to get it. I'm probably not there. I'm actually still working to get there, but I know how to get you there. So, little anecdote here. Once again, I love keyboards. I love them a lot. So if you want to see how I play with my keyboards, how my love for keyboard, telling you more about it, yeah, just subscribe here, and it's gonna be available in your inbox whenever I publish that video. And maybe by the time you watch this, that video will probably be here or just somewhere on the internet. So my name is Davey. I'm the founder at Hackages. We make learning software development easy with our a learning platform. And I will see you on the next episode. Bye.